Chad, I was reading last night at The Athletic, great piece on Sean McVay and the 5-win season to follow up their Super Bowl season, which is the worst, dumpster fire that we've seen from a Super Bowl winning team the following season. And it details the Rams implosion, the salary cap issues, the different injuries, 11 different combinations of offensive linemen starting for them over the first 11 games of the season, and how McVay became more introverted and guarded with how he felt about the job he was doing. In fact, at one point, thought about stepping aside because it was going so bad through the season. He thought he was the reason why. He gave up play calling duties at one point to Liam Cohen. And it reminded me of Sean Payton, who kicked the can down the road. Not just him, Mickey Loomis, the organization. They kicked the can down the road with the Drew Brees contract. At some point, that comes back to bite you. And as Brees steps away, so did Sean Payton after that one season where he went through 4 different quarterbacks. He steps away. He's now of course, head coach of the Denver Broncos. More power to him. But McVay in this piece says, look, I have to see this through. I was on board with what we did to go all in to win the Super Bowl. I can't bail now. And we didn't hear that from Payton. Now, different circumstances, 15 years in New Orleans for Sean Payton. But McVay has created this culture where, not just within the locker room, but within the coaching staff, you're putting up numbers. And the coaching staff then progresses to become head coaches or offensive coordinators of other offenses. And he's sitting back going, I'm exhausted. I'm angry at the situation. I can't believe we're this bad. But yet I'm seeing it through.
I don't like to hear him say that he wanted to step away or thought about stepping away.
He thought he was the reason why they were where they were.
The reason they are what they are is because they're all standing on a table screaming "F those picks." This is the hangover of that.
Well,
right? I mean, this is why most teams don't do this. It worked because they won a Super Bowl.
Right.
But you can tout this all you want and mock everyone and F those picks this and all of that. Eventually, you're going to pay the piper in this league. And it just happens sooner rather than later for this team. So I'm tired of hearing about this. Going to TV or not, if you're Sean McVay.
I don't think he's going right now.
If you're considering midseason, man, things are going bad.
But
maybe it's me. Maybe I should step away. Do we really think Sean McVay has that much self-doubt? The guy who just won a Super Bowl? The guy who is the wunderkind coach that produces more head coaches across the league?
The author, the writer of the piece spoke with multiple players and personnel from within the organization that verified all this, where he went to his office and shut the door where it normally was wide open, and players started gravitating towards Raheem Morris during the season. And then by the end of the year, he came out of whatever funk he was in, and everything was cool. But during the season, there was this, what's going on with Sean?
Look, I love the honesty. All right, I want to start there because we don't get enough honesty in the NFL. So I don't ever want to discourage anyone from not telling us what's going on. It's just a season after leading up to the Super Bowl. All the reports, we're there in L.A., Hutton, and remember, all the reports were Sean McVay may actually, if they win, step away and go into television.
And Donald's going to retire, and all these storylines.
Burnout with him,
Yep.
Even at a young age. He's grinded so hard for even a short amount of time to get here that he may want to go do something else. Doesn't do that. Donald comes back, go into this season, and then now you're telling me that you legitimately consider that you're the you're not the problem, and you should know that you're the problem and you should step away. I like the self-awareness. I like looking in the mirror if things aren't going well and asking all the proper questions. I do think, though, that similar to Aaron Rodgers being an off-season to off-season thing with waffling on what he's going to do and whether or not he's going to play and who he wants to play for, this is going to get old for me pretty quick if this is going to be the normal thing now with Sean McVay. I hope it's not. I hope he keeps playing. I love the honesty from him, but let's make up our mind if we're in this to win it and we're in this to stick with adversity. And let's get to the point again where the last thing on your mind is quitting. mid-season because things aren't going well.
Yeah, and that's how he felt in the moment. Now, he saw it through, right? And this could have been the season. If that would have happened, we would have seen him on TV in 2023, and then he's the next Sean Payton, where, okay, is it 1 year, and then he's back in, 2? His mentor's John Gruden, and that's exactly what Gruden did, where he went to television and jumped back in.
Did Gruden get fired, though, eventually? Wasn't he fired from Tampa? Or did he leave on his own?
He may have been fired.
I feel like he was fired.
Yeah, he was fired. He was fired because he was part of the Fired Football Coaches Association.
That's right. He's also, so it's different from Gruden for this reason. Gruden got fired, A. With Payton and McVay, this seems way too convenient for me. There's something at my core that I can't really respect about things aren't going in the direction I want them to with this organization. Let me go into TV for a year and then have someone trade for me.
But it's the
so
money.
I can go somewhere else.
That's what's insane. It's the money that's enticing.
Well, they're making a lot of money to coach. I mean, I get you're going to go make more money in TV, but my point is, all right, if you're going to be Gruden and leave for a decade, great. Yeah. He also got fired. But if Sean McVay wants to go do television for 10 years, and then maybe 5, 10 years, 15 years from now.
Come back when he's 40.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, 10 years from now on his 40th birthday.
He's still the youngest coach in the NFL.
Which is insane. But then you come back and coach. I don't like this leapfrog. I'm going to step away as a successful head coach knowing someone's going to trade for me and go make money in TV for a year simply because things aren't going the way that I want right now because my star quarterback retired or the F those picks mantra didn't work out the way I wanted to, and we're not going to be any good in the near future, and Matthew Stafford's hurt and getting older. I don't like that. Just as a competitor and someone who loves the NFL, I don't like this. I don't like this trend with these coaches.
The story says he agonized over whether to leave the team and called his relationship with football, quote, a beautiful torment. And now he's circled back to he's in, and this isn't a validation or a piece where he's saying, like, you know what, I'm staying in Los Angeles to coach the Rams.
Yeah, he basically said, I saw it out. Saw through it.
He saw through it, and he's staying. Like, his reasoning for why he's returning. He wants to see it through after, agreeing after the Super Bowl to sign Allen Robinson, for instance. They get into that in this piece, which didn't do much of anything. But then the injuries and everything else that was going on, he was like, man, maybe I'm the issue with the play calling. So he turns that over. And then by the end of it, he's getting the credit for Baker Mayfield by the end of the season.
Yeah.
So more power to him on this. I'm Team Sean McVay. I want him to stay in the league. But more than anything, like if you're on board with taking an organization going all in, you're going to pay the price eventually. I'm on board with the coach seeing it through instead of just saying, you know what, won the Super Bowl, peace, see ya.
I hope he sees it through.
I think he will.
I don't know that. I'm not very confident in that if in mid-season the next year, they won a Super Bowl a year ago.
I know.
And the build-up to that Super Bowl was the guy who was about to step away. Now you're telling me they lose a few games, and by mid-season he doesn't know if he wants to keep doing it, and he had to see it through? That doesn't sound like a guy who's going to coach next 10 years for the Rams to me. Sounds like a guy who, if they're not improved next year, will step away and then try to go to a better team and leapfrog at that point.
If not improved in the next 2 years, he'll be fired.
I just think if you're going to...
that's the nature of the league. If
you're going to tout F those picks and win a Super Bowl doing it...
Which was their GM.
Then you damn well better... Well, that's the coach, too. He was on board with all this as well. They went all in on a Super Bowl. They won it. Well, build it back up again and win another one. Call me old school here, but see through the darkness. Don't back out. Don't quit. Don't go do some analysis job on television. See through it. Take your lumps. You won a Super Bowl ring, for God's sakes. That's good. And then come back and win another one.
I mean, he has been the coach that has the tree, all the branches across the league. Everyone points to him. That's what's just so fascinating
about his mindset. Maybe he can just sit back and be kind of the Papa, the Papa Hallis of the league and say, look at all my children out there, all of my assistants being coaches. And just be on television and tout all of his assistants that have moved on to bigger and better things.
Well, speaking of Sean Payton, just tying it in with the Broncos, a report that Russell Wilson wanted Pete Carroll and John Schneider fired in Seattle. Not only did he want Carroll, but also the GM. I think the storyline 2 years ago was Carroll and Wilson were not seeing eye to eye. They weren't communicating well. And at some point in February of 2022, so a year ago, Wilson went to ownership and asked them to make a change. And then it was the owner at the time, still, Jody Allen, who took over controlling ownership to make the decision. And we know the decision. Wilson was traded soon after that, literally within the hour of Aaron Rodgers announcing he was staying in Green Bay. Now, Russell Wilson has denied this. And he sent this tweet where he says, I love Pete. He was a father figure to me, and John believed in me, drafted me as well. I never wanted them fired. All of us wanted to win. I'll always have respect for them and love for Seattle. That from Russell Wilson, who's now now playing for the coach who he wanted there in Sean Payton, who's taking away all these privileges.
Do you believe what Russell Wilson is saying, or do you believe the report?
No, I believe the report, which half of it I feel like we had already heard. Not fired, but like it had to be one or the other, right? And
I believe that Russell Wilson probably went in and said, if they can't get along, fire them both. Or let's figure this thing out because it's not working.
Or he said, I don't like the direction of where we're headed. I need more room to work. I need more weapons and offensive line help. I'm tired of running for my life every week. I need, a new vision, a clear vision.
And now,
the guy had his own office there. So.
Right. And a year later, though, he's got no power.
None. But the coach that he just vouched for came in and took away a lot of the things that he had there in Denver.
Well, and I'm saying based on play.
Yeah.
A year ago,
absolutely.
Someone in the YouTube chat just said, imagine being Russell Wilson and acting like it's the coach's fault when you watch his play on the field.
Right.
I understand that. So his play was in steady decline, especially the final year in Seattle, some due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, now fresh start. Broncos really ante up and give a lot in a trade. Bring you in, you're the franchise guy. You get a new way to go about doing things, and he sucks again. Okay, maybe that's Nathaniel Hackett's fault. I don't think so. This is a trend now with Russell Wilson. So now you got Sean Payton, who he smells like roses coming into Denver. He's taken away more power from Russell Wilson. He's just got no positional strength in terms of negotiation with that franchise anymore.
And by power, we're talking about the trainers that were in the facility.
But he's in the prove it mode again. I mean,
but
everyone's looking around saying, dude, you're not going to dictate terms to us. Your trainers are gone. It's going to be Sean Payton's way. You need to prove to us why we should believe in you as the franchise quarterback. Forget about the contract you have.
Yeah.
Forget about the trade that we made. This is now about you proving to us that you're worthy of our team and what we're doing. It's not the opposite way around to where we had a couple of years ago, according to reports, Russell Wilson asking for Schneider and Carroll's job.
Yes, and right now Seattle has the last laugh as of right now. But he's been paired with the coach that he put on a list of teams that he would approve a trade for from Seattle. New Orleans was one of those because of Sean Payton. So now he's got the coach, and now it's up to Russell Wilson, right?
All up to him.
Yeah. I mean, the
pressure's on him now.
Yes. I mean, he has to be the leader of that franchise, of that team, of that locker room. He was not that last year. Hit us up with your thoughts in the chat. OutKick 360 on YouTube. Chad, mock drafts. We're going to talk draft in the second hour coming up. But the mock drafts have you fired up right now.
Don't fall for the fabricated roller coaster that is pre-NFL draft, mock draft coverage. And here's a great example of that. On3 Sports, and I love On3 Sports and the guys over there. They've got a writer who decided to put Anthony Richardson at number 1 overall. Whoever put this out there may very well believe this. It's crap.
And it's through CBS Sports.
It's something to put out there that is going to get attention, that people are going to cover, that they're going to get talked about. I'm not talking about this like it's a news story. I'm telling you, buyer beware on mock draft season. If I'm following this correctly, reading the rationale behind Anthony Richardson being number 1 overall, it's that the Colts will trade up with the Bears to draft Anthony Richardson. And every description I heard is basically they could see Anthony Richardson, Shane Steichen could, as another Jalen Hurts. who he had success with. Let me tell you something about Anthony Richardson. He's not near as good as Jalen Hurts in college. It just wasn't, ever. Jalen Hurts is better at Alabama under one coach, and then he was better at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley than Anthony Richardson has been at any point in his life. High school, Dan Mullen, Billy Napier, at any point, Jalen Hurts is on a different planet than Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is a long-term project at quarterback.
This is the trait.
He is not a finished product. He is not a number 1 overall pick. I saw something where Daniel Jeremiah is talking about Bryce Young, people around the Alabama program saying that he's the greatest football player they've ever been around. And about his leadership on Sundays when he got back, he would make notes for the coaching staff to improve their work for the next week's game. And they would take those notes on things he wanted to see in the game plan the next week. And now we've got someone saying Anthony Richardson should be drafted ahead of Bryce Young. Come on now. Come on. I'm not buying it. You shouldn't buy it. People have jobs to do. Part of those jobs are to get clicks and get impressions. I understand that. I have a hard time believing anyone actually believes Anthony Richardson is the number 1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft.
This is the time of year where you've got to have something new on this draft. We've been talking this. The mock drafts have been out for 3 months now. You get it at the end of the season. Chasing the number 1 overall selection. Chad, next week with the NFL Combine, Richardson and Levis will be the talk of the Combine. This is not the first we're going to see this. It will get back to Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud.
That's why I wanted to put the warning shot out now. Don't fall for the bait on this. It's Bryce Young. It's C.J. Stroud. And then it's whatever collection of quarterbacks you want to put out there. I've been consistent. I think Hendon Hooker is the next best quarterback in this draft.
Yes.
And there's a lot of talk and reports now that, boy, people really like this Hendon Hooker guy. And that there's a lot of teams who really think he's great. But, there's questions about the injury and the age and everything else. I'm just saying what I've seen at quarterback, I'd go Bryce Young 1, C.J. Stroud 2, Hendon Hooker 3, Will Levis 4, Anthony Richardson 5. I could understand flip-flopping Richardson and Levis based on ceiling. I do think Anthony Richardson has a sky-high ceiling, but his floor is really, really low right now based on what we've seen from him in Florida.